Settle in now and let the day grow quiet around you. Find a comfortable position, loosen your shoulders, and allow your breathing to become slow and easy. There is nowhere you need to go, and nothing you need to solve. For a little while, you can simply listen. You can let the words come and go like a soft stream in the dark. Tonight, we will take a calm and gentle journey into an old Chinese tale, and we will follow the long and winding story of the Monkey King. This is a story that has traveled for many centuries. It comes from a famous Chinese novel called Journey to the West and from older legends, beliefs, and folk tales that slowly joined together over time. The Monkey King is known by many listeners as a lively and powerful figure, clever and restless, proud and playful. But tonight, we will move through his story in a quieter way. We will not rush. We will let each part unfold slowly, like mist drifting over a mountain path. We will meet him first as a curious stone monkey born beneath the sky, and then we will follow him through forests, palaces, clouds, and temples. We will see how a wild heart slowly learns patience. So let your thoughts become softer now. Let the room feel still. Imagine a distant mountain wrapped in pale morning light. Imagine trees moving lightly in the breeze. Imagine water flowing over smooth stone. In that quiet place, long ago, before kings and armies knew his name, before heaven itself took notice, there was only a mountain and a strange stone, waiting. On the mountain of flowers and fruit, there stood an ancient rock. It had rested there for ages beyond counting. It had felt the warmth of the sun by day and the cool light of the moon by night. It had listened to wind in the branches and rain on the leaves. It had gathered something mysterious inside it, a kind of life that did not belong to ordinary stone. The powers of heaven and earth, so the story says, worked on it little by little. Seasons passed, clouds came and went, the mountain remained. And one day, the rock cracked open. From that stone came a monkey. He was not a baby in the usual way. He was already alert, already moving, already looking around at the world with bright and curious eyes. He stretched his limbs, he blinked in the sunlight, he bowed in the four directions. The air seemed fresh and new, the mountain seemed wide and welcoming. The monkey began to run and climb as if he had always belonged there. The other monkeys of the mountain soon found him, and they watched him with interest. He was one of them, and yet not quite like them. There was something unusual in the way he moved, something quick and lively and fearless. The mountain where they lived was a pleasant place. It was filled with fruit trees, cool streams, hanging vines, flowers, and caves. It was the sort of place where monkeys could leap from branch to branch and never feel far from food or shelter. They played in the sun, they splashed in water, they rested in shade. Days passed in ease. The stone-born monkey joined their games and quickly became part of their group. He climbed well, laughed easily, and showed a bold spirit. In many myths, the hero begins in hardship, but the Monkey King begins in beauty. He begins in abundance. He begins in a green and shining place where life seems simple and free. This matters, because from the start, his story is not only about struggle, it is also about delight. He loves movement, fresh air, ripe fruit, and the joy of being alive. He is restless, yes, but he is also full of wonder. And wonder, even when it becomes pride, is still an important part of his nature. One day, the monkeys were playing near a stream when they noticed a waterfall. Water spilled down in a bright curtain, and behind it there seemed to be a hidden opening. The monkeys talked among themselves. They wondered what lay beyond the falling water. It might be a cave. It might be shelter. It might be danger. The one who dared to leap through it, they said, would prove his courage and deserve great honor. The stone monkey did not hesitate for long. He stepped forward. He looked at the waterfall. He gathered himself, and then he jumped. Through the cold, rushing water he went, and on the other side he landed safely inside a cave. It was dry and spacious. There were stone rooms and places to rest. It was hidden and secure, a perfect home. He returned through the waterfall and called to the others, telling them what he had found. One by one they followed him through, and together they explored the cave behind the water. They were delighted. It was better than they had hoped. It offered safety from weather, from wandering beasts, from trouble. And because the stone monkey had been the one to enter first and show them the way, the monkeys honored their promise. They chose him as their king. So he became their ruler, though not in a grand or heavy way at first. He was their leader because he was brave and clever. He sat with them, played with them, and lived among them. He was called Beautiful Monkey King in some tellings, and later simply the Monkey King. He had no crown of gold at the beginning, no mighty throne in a palace. His kingdom was a mountain cave hidden behind water. His subjects were monkeys among trees and cliffs. It was a cheerful kingdom, simple and wild. For a time, life was pleasant. The Monkey King enjoyed his place. He played, feasted, and laughed. He ran freely with his companions. He slept in the cave and woke to birdsong. Yet even in such a place, a new thought slowly entered his mind. It came not from hunger or danger, but from reflection. One day, perhaps while sitting quietly, perhaps while watching an older monkey grow weak, he began to think about death. This is one of the softer and stranger turns in his tale. A monkey who loves life begins to worry that life does not last. He sees that joy is not enough to stop time. Fruit ripens and falls, flowers open and fade. Even a mountain stream changes from season to season. The Monkey King realizes that one day he too may grow old. He too may die. That thought troubles him deeply. He could not rest with it. Others around him may have accepted the ordinary pattern of life, but he could not. His spirit was too active, too questioning. If there was a way to escape death, he wanted to find it. If somewhere there existed a sage, an immortal, a master of hidden knowledge, then he would go and learn. His desire was not small. He did not want merely comfort. He wanted permanence. He wanted to step beyond the common fate of all creatures. So the Monkey King left his mountain home. It is easy to imagine that departure in the soft light of early morning. The monkeys of the mountain gather quietly, their king, still full of energy but carrying a new seriousness, prepares to travel far beyond the familiar trees. The world outside is large, and he has never seen most of it. Yet he is not afraid. Curiosity moves him forward. He built a small raft and crossed the sea. The image is a gentle one, a monkey born from stone, floating over wide water in search of a secret. He drifted from place to place and eventually reached the lands of human beings. There he saw houses, roads, markets, clothes, language, and manners different from those of the mountain. He observed carefully. He imitated what he saw. He learned to wear human dress when needed. He learned how the world of people worked, at least a little. This part of the story reminds us that the Monkey King is a great observer. He is not only strong, he notices things. He learns by watching. He can be impatient, but he is also quick to adapt. He moves from forest life into human towns with an alert and flexible mind. He is still very much a monkey, but he is also becoming a student of the world. He traveled for years. He searched for teachers, for holy men, for anyone who might know the way to long life and true power. Many places gave him no answer. Many paths led nowhere. But at last, in a remote and peaceful region, he found a great master. This sage is often called Subhuti in English retellings, though names can vary in translation. The master lived apart from ordinary bustle. He taught selected students. His home was a place of discipline and quiet learning. When the Monkey King came before him, he behaved with unusual humility. He bowed. He asked to become a disciple. He wanted to learn the path that leads beyond death. The master looked at him and saw what others had seen from the beginning. This was not an ordinary creature. He was bright, willful, and full of untamed force. The teacher accepted him. The Monkey King lived among the other students and studied with care. He swept floors. He listened to lessons. He waited. Days became months, and months became years. The master gave teachings not all at once, but slowly. Some students received one kind of instruction and some another. The Monkey King remained eager. He wanted the deepest knowledge, the true methods, the hidden arts. At last, the master taught him secret practices. He learned ways to cultivate his inner nature. He learned disciplines connected to immortality. He learned magical arts as well. One of the most famous was the ability to transform himself into many forms. In some tellings, he is said to know 72 transformations, which does not always mean exactly 72 in a counting sense, but rather a wide and impressive variety. He could become an animal, an insect, a different person, or other shapes as needed. He also learned to travel on clouds, crossing immense distances with astonishing speed. A single leap could carry him far beyond the reach of ordinary beings. These powers suited him very well. They matched his lively mind. He loved skill, movement, and surprise. Yet with every new lesson came a danger. Great power and great discipline are not the same thing. The Monkey King was learning extraordinary abilities, but his heart was not yet calm. He still carried pride. He still wanted to prove himself. He still enjoyed showing what he could do. One day, he displayed his powers too openly. The master understood what this meant. The student had learned much, but had not become wise enough to use it gently. So the teacher sent him away. This was not done with anger alone. It was also a kind of protection. The master knew the world would soon feel the effects of such a gifted and unruly being. He warned the Monkey King not to speak lightly of his teacher. Then the Monkey King departed. Now he returned to the mountain of flowers and fruit, no longer just a brave monkey, but a being of astonishing ability. He came back through the skies, through wind and cloud, to the cave behind the waterfall. His monkey subjects welcomed him with delight. Their king had returned from the world with knowledge and power. He could leap through the air. He could change shape. He had crossed seas and studied under a sage. He was no longer merely bold. He was becoming legendary. Yet even this return was not restful for long. While he had been away, trouble had come to the mountain. A demon or monster, depending on the retelling, had disturbed his monkeys and taken advantage of his absence. The Monkey King acted swiftly. Using the powers he had learned, he defeated the intruder and restored peace. This deepened the loyalty of his followers. He was not just their playful companion anymore. He was their protector. Still, he felt that something was missing. He had magical power. He had a kingdom, but he wanted a weapon worthy of his strength. So he traveled again, this time to the realm beneath the sea, to the palace of the Dragon King. Chinese mythology includes great dragon kings who rule the waters, especially the seas and rivers. They are not always like the fire-breathing dragons of some European stories. They are often majestic, ancient, and tied to rain, weather, and watery realms. The Eastern Sea Dragon King lived in a splendid underwater palace full of treasures. Pearls shone there. Coral rose like branches of red stone. Strange fish and sea creatures moved through the deep. It was a place of quiet grandeur. When the Monkey King arrived, he was not invited in the usual way, but he made himself known. The Dragon King, perhaps a little uncertain about this unusual visitor, received him politely. The Monkey King asked for a weapon. He tried one great blade, but it was too light. He tried another spear, but it did not suit him. Nothing seemed right. The Dragon King, growing uneasy, eventually revealed an iron staff that had once been used by the great Yu, the legendary ruler who controlled the floods. It was a magical pillar of immense weight, resting deep in the sea. This was no ordinary weapon. It was huge,
heavy and powerful. Yet, when the Monkey King approached it, something remarkable happened. The staff responded to him. He lifted it. He found that he could wield it with ease. It suited him perfectly. Better still, the staff could change its size. It could become as large as a pillar reaching upward, or as small as a needle tucked behind the ear. This was ideal for a monkey who loved both force and clever convenience. The Monkey King claimed it as his own. It became his famous weapon, often called the Ru Yi Jinggu Bong, sometimes translated as the compliant golden hooped rod. It was strong, flexible in size, and deeply tied to his identity. With the staff in hand, he seemed even more complete as a mythic figure. Quick mind, immortal body, magical transformations, cloud travel, and now a perfect weapon. He also took armor and other treasures from the Sea Kings, not always with the best manners. Here again we see the pattern forming. He is dazzling and gifted, but he does not naturally stop at what is proper. He reaches, he claims, he tests limits. His confidence is growing into something harder to manage. Back on his mountain, he trained his monkey army. He gave them structure and leadership. He called himself by greater titles. In many retellings, he eventually styles himself as the great sage equal to heaven. It is a bold name and a revealing one. He does not want to be just a local king of monkeys. He wants cosmic recognition. He wants heaven itself to acknowledge his worth. At this point, it helps to pause and notice how the story is shifting. It began in a mountain paradise, then it became a quest for immortality. Now it is moving toward a contest between wild freedom and celestial order. The Monkey King is still joyful and lively, but his energy is no longer contained within his own world. He is brushing against larger systems, larger powers, and larger consequences. He soon discovered one more thing. Even though he had learned immortality practices, his name had still been written in the records of the dead. In Chinese belief and story, the underworld contains bureaucratic elements with officials, ledgers, and procedures. It is a mythic realm, but one that sometimes resembles an earthly administration. The Monkey King learned that when his time came, the underworld expected to claim him. He did not accept this. When messengers from the underworld came to summon him, he followed them there, but not in submission. Once inside the land of death, he caused great confusion. He demanded answers. He insisted that he was beyond ordinary mortality. Then, finding the records that listed his name and the names of his monkey subjects, he erased them. In some versions, he struck them out entirely, removing not only himself, but many of his people from the official register of death. This is one of the most telling acts in the whole story. The Monkey King does not simply bend rules, he rewrites them when he can. If a book says he must die, then he changes the book. To him, it feels justified. He has worked, learned, and transformed himself. Why should some distant office decide his fate? Yet, to the wider order of the cosmos, this is deeply disruptive. It is one thing to seek long life, it is another to storm the underworld and alter its records. The rulers of the underworld complained to heaven. The Dragon Kings had already complained. Reports were beginning to gather. There was, it seemed, a monkey on Earth who was becoming impossible to ignore. So, heaven decided to respond. In Chinese mythology, heaven is not always distant and abstract. It can be imagined as a grand imperial court with an emperor, ministers, officials, armies, and a detailed structure of rank and duty. At its center sits the Jade Emperor, ruler of the celestial realm. He receives reports, gives commands, and oversees a vast heavenly administration. It is a setting both divine and familiar, shaped in part by the image of imperial government. The gods and officials discussed what to do with the Monkey King. Some advised force, others suggested a more careful approach. Since he was powerful and unpredictable, perhaps it would be wiser to bring him into heaven, give him a position, and keep him under watch. This way, he might be honored enough to remain calm while also being controlled. The Jade Emperor agreed to try this plan. An invitation, or rather a summons dressed in polite form, was sent to the Monkey King. He was offered a post in heaven. To a being who longed for recognition, this was appealing. He went gladly, imagining, perhaps, that he would receive a grand office equal to his talents. But heaven gave him a humble job. He was made the keeper of the heavenly horses, a stable master of sorts. The title sounded official, but the role was not truly high. When the Monkey King discovered this, he was offended. He had not traveled to heaven to feed and manage horses. He saw the appointment as an insult, a trick to keep him busy and beneath his dignity. So he left. He returned to Earth and announced a new title for himself, one far grander than the office heaven had offered. He called himself the Great Sage Equal to Heaven. It was more than pride now, it was open challenge. He was declaring that he would define his own rank if heaven would not recognize it. Again, the heavenly court debated. Perhaps, some thought, the best way to manage him was to officially grant the title without giving him real authority. So they invited him back and allowed him the name he desired, hoping that a little flattery would keep the peace. For a time, the plan seemed to work. The Monkey King returned to heaven. He wandered its gardens and halls. He attended to little and enjoyed much. But the calm did not last. In heaven there was a great banquet, a gathering of divine figures and honored guests. The Monkey King expected to be included, or at least to be treated as important. Yet he found that he had not been properly invited in the way he believed he deserved. Feeling slighted again, he reacted in the way he often did when pride was wounded. He caused disorder. He ate food and drank wine prepared for the immortals. He consumed the peaches of immortality from the garden of the Queen Mother of the West. In some versions, he also swallowed pills of immortality prepared by Laozi, the great Taoist sage of the celestial realm. These acts made him even more impossible to control. The peaches, the wine, the pills, all belonged to the highest heavenly order. By taking them, he deepened his powers and mocked the structure of heaven at the same time. It is almost comic in one sense, like a bold intruder wandering through a royal feast and helping himself to everything on the table. But it is also serious. The Monkey King is no longer just refusing to accept limits. He is testing the very heart of celestial authority. Heaven finally responded with force. Armies were sent against him. Great generals came. Divine beings battled the Monkey King with weapons, spells, and formations. Yet he was remarkably difficult to defeat. His staff was immense in power. His transformations were many. His body had become resistant and strong. He fought with energy and cunning, evading capture again and again. The battles in the old story can be lively and vast, but tonight we can imagine them at a distance, as clouds swirling around mountain peaks, banners moving in pale sky, and one indomitable monkey standing against ranks of heaven. At first, heaven could not subdue him. This is one reason the Monkey King remained so beloved in later culture. He was small in form compared with the vast machinery of the cosmos, and yet he resisted it. He was rebellious, yes, but also brilliantly alive. He refused to be impressed by rank alone. He would not bow simply because others expected it. At last, stronger measures were needed. Some powerful celestial figures joined the effort. The Monkey King was captured through a combination of force and strategy. Bound and taken to heaven, he faced punishment. Yet even here he proved difficult to destroy. Blades could not harm him. Thunder and fire did little. He had taken in too much immortality, learned too many arts, become too resilient. In one famous episode, he was placed in Laozi furnace, a great alchemical fire meant to refine and destroy. He remained there for many days. One might imagine that at last his story would end in heat and smoke. But no, he survived. The furnace only changed him further. When he emerged, his eyes had been affected by the smoke, giving him a special sight, often translated as fiery golden eyes. He was singed, perhaps, but not defeated. He burst free in anger and resumed his resistance. By now, the scale of the disturbance had grown too large for ordinary heavenly response. So another figure entered the story, a figure of calm and immense spiritual authority. This was the Buddha. It is important to note that Journey to the West draws from several traditions at once, especially Buddhism, Taoism, and Chinese folk religion. The Monkey King's story moves among them. The arrival of the Buddha marks a deeper shift. Up to this point, much of the story has been about cleverness, force, status, and magical ability. The Buddha introduces a different kind of power, one based not on struggle, but on insight and vast stillness. The Buddha spoke with the Monkey King and offered a challenge. If the Monkey King could leap beyond the Buddha's hand, he would be acknowledged. To the Monkey King, this seemed easy. He was a master of cloud travel. He could cross enormous distances in a single bound. So he leapt.
He flew and flew, traveling what seemed like the far edge of the world. At last, he came to what looked like 5 great pillars rising into the sky. To mark his journey, he wrote on one of them and, in some versions, left another sign as well, confident that he had reached the limit of space. Then he turned back and declared his success. But when he returned, he saw the writing on the Buddha's finger. The 5 pillars had been the fingers of the Buddha's hand all along. This moment is one of the quiet centers of the tale. For all his speed, the Monkey King had not escaped the greater reality that held him. For all his cleverness, there was a wisdom beyond cleverness. For all his motion, there was a stillness vast enough to contain it. The Buddha then transformed his hand into a mountain and trapped the Monkey King beneath it. This was the 5 Elements Mountain, or 5 Phases Mountain in some translations. There the Monkey King remained for 500 years. 500 years is a long time, even in myth. It is long enough for noise to fade, long enough for pride to have no audience, long enough for the restless body to feel the weight of stillness. Under the mountain, the Monkey King could not roam, boast, battle, or feast. He could only endure. This long imprisonment is essential to his story. Without it, he would remain only a rebel trickster, powerful and amusing, but unchanged. Under the mountain, time becomes his teacher. Wind passes, rain falls, moss grows, dynasties shift in the world beyond. The Monkey King waits. We might picture him there not in constant rage, but in cycles of thought. At first anger, then boredom, then reflection, then silence, then memory. Perhaps he remembers the mountain of his birth, the monkeys in the cave, the joy of early freedom. Perhaps he remembers the pride that carried him into heaven. Perhaps he begins little by little to understand that strength without restraint becomes its own prison. In the human world, centuries passed. Then a monk was chosen for a sacred mission. This monk is known in the novel as Tang Sanzang and often in English as Tripitaka from the Buddhist scriptures. He was tasked with traveling from China toward India to obtain holy texts. It was a journey of enormous difficulty across deserts, rivers, mountains, and foreign lands. The purpose was spiritual. The scriptures would bring wisdom and blessing, but the monk could not complete such a journey alone. He would need disciples, and one of them would be the Monkey King. The Buddha, or in some tellings the Bodhisattva Guanyin, acting under divine guidance, arranged for the trapped monkey to be released when the time was right. Guanyin is a beloved figure of compassion in East Asian Buddhism, often associated with mercy, listening, and aid to those in need. In the story, Guanyin helps prepare the pilgrimage and selects those who will protect the monk. When Tang Sanzang came to the mountain, the Monkey King spoke to him and begged for release. He promised service. He promised change. He promised to become a disciple and guard the monk on the western road. The mountain seal was removed, and after 500 years of stillness, the Monkey King was free again. Yet freedom now came with a condition. To control his unruly nature, the monk was given a magical headband, often called the golden fillet or tightening band. Once placed on the Monkey King's head, it could not be removed. If the monk recited a certain spell, the band would tighten painfully, forcing the Monkey King into obedience. It is not a comfortable detail, yet in the story it serves as a symbol. The wild mind now has a restraint. The powerful body now has a check upon it. The Monkey King becomes both guardian and student. This part of the tale can feel complicated. We admire his freedom, and yet we also see that without discipline he brings chaos. The band is not simply punishment, it is the hard outer form of a lesson he has not yet fully learned within. Over time, the journey itself will help turn external restraint into inward understanding. So the pilgrimage began. From here, the Monkey King's story joins a larger road story filled with companions, encounters, and moral tests. But even within the wider journey, his presence remains central. He is the most capable protector of the group, the most resourceful, the quickest to sense danger, and often the first to act. He is also the most impatient, the most likely to quarrel, and the one who most needs the slow education of the road. The monk he serves is gentle, devout, and sincere, but not always practical. Tang Sanzong believes in goodness and mercy. He wants to save all beings and avoid harm. This is admirable, but it can also make him vulnerable. He sometimes fails to recognize deception. He may trust a dangerous stranger. He may criticize the Monkey King for using force, even when force is needed to protect the group. This creates one of the most enduring patterns in the story. The monkey sees clearly. The monk believes deeply. One acts, one prays. One is sharp and suspicious. One is soft and idealistic. They frustrate each other, and yet they need each other. Soon the pilgrimage gains more companions. There is Ju Bajie, often called Pigsy in English retellings, a half-man, half-pig figure with a large appetite, a lazy streak, and a comic personality. He was once a heavenly being too, but fell from grace and took on a lower form. He is not as disciplined as the monk, nor as able as the monkey. He likes food, comfort, and rest. But he is also loyal in his way, and his flaws make him strangely human and warm. Then there is Sha Wu Jing, often called Sandy or Monk Sha, a quieter companion associated with a river and past wrongdoing. He is steady, patient, and less dramatic than the others. Where the Monkey King is quick and Bajie is indulgent, Sha Wu Jing is calm and dependable. Together, they form an unusual group: the holy monk, the rebellious monkey, the hungry pig, and the silent river spirit.
Their journey westward becomes a long sequence of roads and rivers, inns and mountains, temples and wilderness. Along the way, they meet monsters, spirits, false appearances, and difficult people. Many of these beings wish to capture the monk because his flesh is believed to bring spiritual benefit or long life. This gives the story repeated moments of danger. Yet, even in these episodes, the deeper pattern remains restful in its repetition. The travelers move on, trouble appears, the Monkey King investigates, confusion rises, wisdom or force resolves it, and the road continues. For a bedtime telling, it is enough to move through these encounters gently, noticing what they teach. Again and again, the Monkey King senses danger before the others. He sees through disguises. He notices when a beautiful house in the wilderness is not a house at all, but an illusion. He knows when a kindly host is in fact a demon in another shape. This ability comes partly from his magical sight and partly from experience. He has himself been a shapeshifter, a trickster, a creature of masks, so he recognizes masks in others. Yet this often causes tension with Tang Samzang. The monk sees the surface. He sees a young woman, an old man, a friendly family, and wishes to respond with compassion. The Monkey King may strike first, believing he is protecting them all from hidden harm. To the monk, such action can look harsh or cruel. To the Monkey King, the monk's innocence can look dangerously foolish. There is a famous episode involving a white bone spirit, a demon who appears in different human forms to approach the travelers. The Monkey King sees the truth and drives the spirit away repeatedly, but Tang Sanzang misunderstands what has happened and becomes horrified by the monkey's violence. In some versions, he sends the Monkey King away for a time. This is a sad and important moment because it shows how difficult true understanding can be, even between companions on a sacred journey. The Monkey King leaves, hurt and angry, yet still tied inwardly to the mission. And soon enough, the monk and the others fall into worse danger without him. In time, he is called back, and once again he rescues them. These cycles of departure and return happen more than once in the larger tale. They show that loyalty is not always smooth. Sometimes love arrives through frustration. Sometimes devotion wears the face of argument. As the pilgrimage continues, the Monkey King's character deepens. He remains witty and energetic, but he also becomes more responsible. He learns that victory is not always immediate. He learns to ask for help from greater beings when an enemy proves too strong. This is a major change for him. The earlier Monkey King wanted to stand alone against heaven itself. The later Monkey King, though still proud, begins to understand cooperation. Many times he travels into the sky or to divine realms seeking assistance. He visits bodhisattvas, immortals, dragon kings, star gods, and celestial officials. Often, the monster troubling the pilgrims turns out not to be a simple enemy at all, but a runaway servant, escaped mount, or neglected creature belonging to some higher being. This pattern adds a gentle complexity to the world of the story. Things are connected. A demon in a valley may have a story that reaches back into heaven. A local danger may be part of a wider imbalance. The Monkey King becomes a kind of mediator between worlds. He can fight, yes, but he can also investigate. He can travel between earthly roads and heavenly courts. He speaks the language of boldness, but also, increasingly, the language of responsibility. He still complains, he still boasts from time to time, but the journey is shaping him. It is worth slowing down here to think about why the Monkey King remains so memorable across generations. Part of it is his sheer liveliness. He is never dull in the old stories, even when he causes trouble. Part of it is his rebellion. Many listeners feel a quiet joy in watching him challenge proud officials and stiff authority. But another reason is that he changes without losing himself. He remains quick and bright, yet his power begins to serve something beyond his ego. That is a very gentle and human lesson hidden inside a mythic monkey. The goal is not to erase energy, it is to guide energy. The goal is not to crush personality, it is to mature it. The Monkey King does not stop being the Monkey King. Instead, he slowly becomes worthy of what he can do. Let us wander through a few more of the road's patterns, because repetition itself can feel restful. There are mountain passes where the travelers move slowly under changing skies. There are villages where the local people are anxious and ask for help. There are rivers too wide to cross without aid. There are monasteries with quiet courtyards and worn stone steps. There are lonely roads where evening comes early and shadows lengthen. Again and again, the monk wishes to continue with faith. Again and again, Bajie wishes to eat and rest. Again and again, Sha Wujing carries burdens without complaint. Again and again, the Monkey King scouts ahead, sees too much, worries too much, argues too much, and then saves the day. Sometimes the enemies are powerful kings of monsters with magical weapons. Sometimes they are spirits with narrow desires and small territories. Sometimes they live in caves adorned with stolen silk and strange banners. Sometimes they transform themselves into elegant figures to deceive the innocents. Yet in bedtime telling, these dangers need not feel sharp. They are more like recurring weather on a long road, clouds that gather and pass. One important quality of the Monkey King during these episodes is his persistence. He does not easily give up. If he cannot defeat a foe directly, he tries another method. If his staff fails, he uses transformation. If transformation fails, he seeks knowledge. If knowledge is not enough, he climbs to heaven and demands help. He is active in every possible direction. His mind, once wild and self-serving, becomes wild in service of protection. At times, his old pride returns strongly. He may still mock an enemy or boast about his skill. He may still grumble when the monk blames him unfairly, but the very fact that he stays on the road shows growth. The earlier Monkey King would have walked away from an insult forever. The Pilgrim Monkey King returns because the mission matters more than his wounded pride, at least most of the time.
There is also a quiet spiritual dimension to his story. In Buddhist reading, the Monkey King can be understood as a symbol of the restless mind itself, always leaping, grasping, resisting stillness, full of cleverness and distraction. The pilgrimage then becomes not only a physical journey for scriptures, but an inner journey toward discipline and awakening. The headband is concentration or restraint. The road is practice. The demons are inner obstacles as much as outer ones. This symbolic reading is not the only way to enjoy the story, but it adds a soft layer of meaning. When the Monkey King learns patience, the mind learns patience. When he sees through illusion, the mind sees through illusion. When he bows at last to a greater truth, the self loosens its grip. The myth becomes not just entertainment, but meditation in narrative form. And still, even with deep meanings, the story remains earthy and vivid. Bajie still thinks about dinner. The monk still worries. Dust still gathers on sandals. Mountains still take time to cross. The sacred journey is not made of pure, shining visions. It is made of steps. It is made of repeated effort. It is made of mistakes corrected and lessons relearned. There are moments when the Monkey King must use not force, but humility. He may go to a goddess or bodhisattva and ask for aid. He may realize that an opponent's power comes from a sacred object or a heavenly connection beyond his own reach. Each such moment wears down a little more of his earlier arrogance. He remains formidable, but he no longer believes he alone is enough for every challenge. This matters because true maturity in myth, as in life, often means recognizing limits without losing courage. There are also moments of tenderness. The Monkey King can be fierce in defense of Tongsanzang. He keeps watch. He searches tirelessly when the monk is captured. He does not sleep easily when his master is in danger. Beneath the arguments, there is deep loyalty. He may roll his eyes at the monk's innocence, but he still protects that innocence. He may complain about the burden of the journey, but he continues to carry it. In some sense, Tongsanzang gives the Monkey King what heaven never could. Heaven gave rank or punishment. The monk gives purpose. Service to the pilgrimage does what titles never did. It directs his gifts towards something meaningful. As year follows year on the Western Road, the travelers cross lands of heat and cold, abundance and scarcity. They encounter foreign customs, difficult terrain, and the simple weariness of constant movement. Journey to the West is, among many things, a travel story. And travel changes people. It strips away certainty. It repeats effort. It brings one face to face with both the world and oneself. For the Monkey King, this long road becomes the opposite of his 500 years under the mountain, and yet also a continuation of that lesson. Under the mountain, he learned enforced stillness. On the road, he learned disciplined action. Both are forms of training. Both shape the same restless spirit. Sometimes when the group reaches a monastery or temple, there is a pause. They eat simple food. They speak with monks or villagers. They rest under a roof. These quieter moments matter. They remind us that not every part of the journey is struggle.
There is also ordinary human kindness. There is hospitality, tea, warm light, and the sound of evening in a courtyard. In such places, even the Monkey King can become still for a little while. One can imagine him sitting on a wall at sunset, staff beside him, listening to distant bells. Not asleep, of course, never entirely asleep in spirit, but less agitated than before, more capable of waiting. There are lessons, too, about appearances. Again and again, the Monkey King teaches, through action, that outer beauty may hide danger, and rough appearance may hide goodness. Yet he also learns that suspicion alone is not wisdom. The monk's compassion, though sometimes impractical, is not foolish in itself. Without compassion, the pilgrimage would lose its heart. Without discernment, it would lose its safety. The group needs both. In this sense, the Monkey King and Tung Sanzang slowly educate one another. Bajie and Sha Wujing contribute in quieter ways. Bajie often provides comic relief, yes, but he also represents the ordinary pull of appetite, laziness, and complaint. He is weak where the Monkey King is strong, yet he continues onward. Sha Wujing represents steadiness. He may not dazzle, but he endures. Together, the disciples seem almost like parts of a single human nature: restlessness, appetite, perseverance, and aspiration traveling together toward wisdom. The Monkey King remains the spark among them, the bright movement that keeps the story alive. But sparks alone cannot complete a pilgrimage. They need a lantern, a path, and a destination. As the journey nears its later stages, the travelers have become more than a group gathered by chance or necessity. They are a tested company. They have crossed enough danger to know one another's faults and strengths. The Monkey King, in particular, has changed from a self-crowned rebel into a genuine protector of a sacred mission. He's still capable of irritation. He still speaks sharply now and then. He still prefers action to contemplation. Yet there is more patience in him now than in the monkey who once stormed heaven over a slight. Time, discipline, companionship, failure, service, and purpose have all done their work. Eventually, after many trials, the travelers reach the land where the scriptures are kept. The details vary in tone and length across different retellings, but the essence remains. Their long road, full of hardship and correction, has brought them to the source of sacred teaching. They receive the scriptures and prepare to return eastward with them, bearing wisdom back to China. This ending is not only a success of travel, it is the completion of transformation. The journey outward has been a journey inward. The Monkey King, who once sought immortality for himself alone, has helped bring enlightenment texts for the benefit of many. The direction of his life has changed. That is perhaps the deepest quiet change in all.
When the pilgrimage is complete, each member of the group receives an appropriate recognition according to the growth they have achieved. The Monkey King is granted Buddhahood in many versions, often under a title translated as the Victorious Fighting Buddha. It is a fitting title. He is still linked to action and struggle, but now that struggle has been purified. He fights not from vanity, but in the service of awakening and protection. To become a Buddha, even in the story's imaginative and symbolic style, is no small thing. It means that the wild monkey, born from stone, who erased his name from the book of death, stole heavenly peaches, battled celestial armies, and spent centuries beneath a mountain, has finally come into harmony with a greater order, not by losing all energy, but by transforming it. This is why the story has such staying power. It holds both rebellion and discipline, mischief and meaning, comedy and spirituality. It speaks to the part of us that resists control and the part of us that longs for wisdom. It says that even the most unruly mind can be trained, even the proudest being can grow, even a creature born in wild freedom can learn service without becoming small. And perhaps this is especially comforting at night. We do not always need stories about perfect heroes. Sometimes it is more restful to follow a character who stumbles, resists, learns slowly, and changes over time.
The Monkey King is brilliant, but he is not easy. He is brave, but not always gentle. He is powerful, but often mistaken. And yet the story never gives up on him. It allows him centuries to grow. It gives him teachers, setbacks, companions, and purpose. There is kindness in that long patience. If we drift back now to the beginning, we can see the whole arc more softly. First, the stone on the mountain under sun and moon. Then the crack of birth and the lively monkey among the trees. Then the leap through the waterfall and the little kingdom in the hidden cave. Then the first shadow of mortality entering his thoughts. Then the raft over the sea. Then the old master and the lessons in transformation. Then the dragon palace and the golden staff. Then the bold declaration against heaven. Then the furnace, the leap, the Buddha's hand, the mountain. Then silence, then release. Then the road west with all its dust and wonder. Then service, then arrival. Seen this way, the story moves like breathing, expansion and contraction, freedom and restraint, motion and stillness, pride and humility, loss and recovery, again and again. And the setting itself remains beautiful throughout. Mountains, rivers, clouds, temples, caves, gardens, stars over long roads, the quiet light before dawn, the stillness after rain. Even when the story speaks of demons or heavenly armies, it is still wrapped in landscapes. It is still part of a world where stone, water, wind, and sky matter deeply. The Monkey King belongs to that elemental world. He is not a drawing room hero. He is a creature of cliffs, peaches, storms, and open air. And perhaps that is why he never fully loses his charm, even when he is difficult. He feels alive in a direct and natural way. He is clever like running water, sudden like wind in trees, stubborn like rock, and bright like sun on metal. And like all these things, he becomes most beautiful when not fighting his place in the larger pattern. The old Chinese storytellers and writers who shaped his tale understood something quiet about the human heart. We often begin with wanting power, freedom, escape, or praise. We want to outrun death, outrank others, and bend the world to our will. But life, with its long roads and patient teachers, may ask something different. It may ask us to serve, to endure, to see clearly, and to let our gifts become useful beyond ourselves. The Monkey King's myth tells that lesson not as a dry rule, but as a vivid adventure of clouds and mountains. And because this is a story for sleep, we can let even its lessons soften now. There is no need to hold them tightly. You do not need to remember every name or every place. It is enough to feel the shape of the tale. A monkey of stone, a staff of gold, a leap too proud, a mountain of waiting, a long road, a changed heart. Far away now, in the mind's quiet distance, the mountain of flowers and fruit still rises. The waterfall still falls in silver threads. The cave behind it remains cool and hidden. The monkeys rest in the trees. The sea beyond the mountain breathes gently in and out. The old stone from which the Monkey King came is empty now, yet not empty at all. It gave its life to motion, and that motion wandered through heaven and earth before learning peace. Imagine the Monkey King at the end of his story, not as a warrior in noise, but as a figure finally at ease. His staff is still with him, but it rests. His eyes still see sharply, but without the old fever of pride. The road has been walked. The task has been done. The wild mind has not been erased. It has been clarified. It has become bright and calm together. And perhaps that is a lovely image to carry into sleep. Not the crushing of the restless self, but its settling. Not the end of energy, but its quieting. Not the loss of wonder, but its deepening. The monkey born from stone has found a stillness wide enough to hold all his motion. So, as this story comes gently to a close, let your own thoughts become lighter and slower. Let them drift like a small cloud over a distant mountain. There is nothing more to chase tonight, no heavenly court to challenge, no long road to walk, no hidden demon to uncover. Only rest, only the soft dark, only the easy rhythm of breath. The mountain is far away now, the sea is quiet, the waterfall keeps falling in the night. Somewhere beyond the trees, the stars turn slowly above the world, and the Monkey King, once so quick, so proud, so impossible to contain, has become part of that larger stillness. Sleep can come gently now. Let the story fade. Let the mountain fade. Let the clouds fade. And rest.
Wild hero who dares to stand against heaven. In another, he is a student learning restraint. In another, he is a guardian on the sacred road. And in another, perhaps the quietest version of all, he is a symbol of the restless mind slowly learning how to become still. Tonight, we will continue in that slow and sleepy spirit. We will move further into his road, his lessons, his strange world, and the gentle meaning hidden inside his lively tale. By the time the Monkey King joins the pilgrimage, he is already old in experience, though not old in the ordinary human sense. He has lived in forests and caves, studied with immortals, stolen from dragons, troubled heaven, and waited under a mountain for 500 years. That alone would be enough for many stories. But in Journey to the West, all of that becomes only the beginning. The deeper part of his life comes afterward, not before. His greatest victories are not the early ones, they are the quieter ones that come later. This is often how old stories work. The first half shows power, the second half shows purpose. The first half shows talent, the second half shows discipline. The first half shines brightly and noisily, the second half glows more softly. And because we are listening at night, in the calm hours when thoughts drift and settle, the softer glow may be the lovelier part. So let us return to the road west. The travelers move at a patient pace. The monk Tongsanzang rides or walks. Bajie complains and grows hungry. Sha Wujing carries supplies and remains steady. And the Monkey King ranges ahead, behind, above, and around them all. He scouts the land, he listens for danger, he notices strange wind, odd footprints, unnatural silence, or a house standing where no house should be. He is never entirely at rest, and that is exactly why he is so useful. There is something almost comforting in the rhythm of these travel scenes. Morning comes, the road opens, hills rise and fall. Sometimes the path is dusty, sometimes it is muddy after rain. Sometimes it leads through pine woods where needles cover the ground in soft brown layers. Sometimes it follows streams that catch the light. Sometimes it climbs stone passes where the air is thinner and cooler. The world changes slowly around them, village to valley, valley to ridge, ridge to river, river to plain. And through all of it, the Monkey King remains alert. He is not a quiet guardian in the ordinary sense. He is not solemn like a statue outside a temple gate. He mutters, jokes, argues, and boasts. He often thinks the others are too slow. He may leap into the air when walking would do. He may talk in a sharp tone when patience would sound kinder. Yet, beneath all that surface motion, he is deeply committed to protecting the monk. That devotion becomes the steady thread through the long journey. In many episodes, danger comes wearing a pleasant face. This is one of the most repeated ideas in Journey to the West. A traveler may see a fine house, warm lamps, welcoming voices, and a table laid with food. Tongsanzang may think heaven has sent a kind host. Bajie may think only of eating, but the Monkey King will pause. He will look more carefully. He will test the air. He will notice that the place has no ordinary signs of life, or that the smile of the host does not reach the eyes, or that the path leading there vanishes strangely behind them. Then he begins to investigate. Sometimes he uses his magic to watch unseen. Sometimes he changes form. Sometimes he taps the ground with his staff.
Sometimes he simply trusts his old instinct that things are not what they seem. This repeated act of noticing illusion becomes one of his great strengths. Long ago, he caused confusion through trickery. Now, he protects others by seeing through trickery. The same sharpness that once made him dangerous becomes useful and even noble. This is an important change in the structure of his character. His nature has not disappeared, it has been redirected. When he meets monsters on the road, often they live in places that mirror human power in odd and unsettling ways. A cave may be arranged like a palace. A demon king may wear silks and jewels and sit beneath banners. Servants may attend with ritual and ceremony. These places are not simple dens. They are imitations of courts, kingdoms, and households, twisted slightly away from normal life. The Monkey King, who has seen both earthly and heavenly courts, understands this strange imitation better than most. He knows that power can be decorative and false. He knows that titles can hide hunger. Yet, even here, the story is never only dark. There is always a strange playfulness to the Monkey King's responses. He may insult an enemy with a clever phrase. He may pretend to retreat and then circle back. He may shrink his staff, enlarge it, hide it, or use it in some surprising way. He may transform a single hair from his body into a copy of himself or into a useful object. In many retellings, he can pluck hairs and turn them into little monkeys or other forms. This detail, though magical, feels somehow fitting. He is a being of endless quick solutions. One monkey can become many. One idea can become 10. That lively magic gives the story movement, but at night we can notice something else too. Underneath the constant invention is effort. The Monkey King never truly stops working once the pilgrimage begins. He may pretend to be carefree, but he is always thinking. He is always solving. He is always throwing himself into the path of danger so the monk can continue onward. And for all his pride, that kind of repeated labor is a humble thing. There are also episodes where his sharpness brings him into conflict with his own master. This tension remains important all through the journey. Tan Sanzang values mercy so deeply that he sometimes cannot accept what the Monkey King sees as necessary action. If the Monkey King strikes down a disguised spirit, the monk may think he has harmed an innocent. This misunderstanding hurts both of them. The Monkey King feels mistrusted. The monk feels troubled by violence. These moments can seem frustrating, and yet they are part of the quiet wisdom of the story. It is not enough to have strength. It is not enough to have kindness. Human life and spiritual life, too, often require the hard balance between compassion and discernment. Tang Sanzang leans toward compassion. The Monkey King leans toward discernment. Their journey together is difficult because each must slowly learn from the other. That kind of learning is slow, very slow, which is perhaps why it feels so fitting for a bedtime story. Nothing changes all at once. The Monkey King is not suddenly transformed into a saint. The monk does not suddenly become shrewd and worldly. They circle around the same lessons many times. They argue, they separate, they reunite. They misunderstand and then understand a little more than before. This gentle repetition is one of the story's quiet strengths. It feels much like real life, where we often learn the same lesson many times in slightly different forms. Bajie, too, has his place in this pattern. He is often remembered for comedy, for appetite, for laziness, and for his round and earthy way of seeing the world. He is not refined. He is not noble in the polished sense. He likes comfort too much. He complains when hungry or tired. He may tease the Monkey King or try to avoid effort. Yet Bajie's weakness gives the pilgrimage a kind of ordinary texture. Not everyone on a sacred path is graceful. Not everyone is pure-minded. Some companions are distracted, hungry, petty, sleepy, or vain, and still they walk the road. This is strangely reassuring. Sha Wujing, by contrast, is quieter than both of them. He speaks less, he serves more. He is the calm center in some of the noisier moments. He lifts burdens, waits, endures, and remains loyal. In a very quiet way, he is part of the story's sleep-like rhythm too. Not every figure must dazzle. Some hold the journey together simply by continuing steadily. When all four travelers are seen together, they resemble a small moving world. The monk is aspiration, Bajie is appetite, Wu Jing is endurance, the Monkey King is restless intelligence, and all of them are needed in one form or another to complete the pilgrimage. Let us imagine an evening on the road. The sun has lowered behind low mountains. The light is turning from gold to gray. The travelers have found a place to rest. Perhaps it is a small temple courtyard, perhaps a sheltered grove, perhaps the edge of a village that has allowed them to stay for the night. The horse stands quietly. Bajie thinks of food. Wu Jing arranges what little they carry. Tang Sanzang recites a prayer or scripture softly to himself. And the Monkey King sits a short distance away, staff across his knees, watching the trees. He looks outward, but perhaps inward too. He has seen much more than the others. He knows how quickly stillness can break. Yet, over time, even his watchfulness becomes less frantic. He learns that every silence does not hide danger. He learns that not every pause must be filled with movement. He begins in small moments to share the stillness he once resisted. This is one of the most beautiful parts of his change, because it is not dramatic, it is subtle. It appears in patience. It appears in his willingness to stay. It appears in the way he keeps returning after quarrels. It appears in the way he bows for help when help is needed. There are many famous episodes in Journey to the West where the Monkey King must seek aid from powerful beings because an enemy cannot be defeated by force alone. This is very different from the monkey who once believed he could challenge the whole order of heaven. Now, when faced with a spirit whose magic comes from some sacred source or a monster protected by divine connection, he may travel upward to ask Guanyin, Laozi, or another celestial figure for help. At first glance, these episodes may seem simple, almost repetitive, but their meaning is deep. They show that courage is not the same as self-sufficiency. The Monkey King remains brave, but he learns that bravery can include asking. Strength can include humility. Skill can include obedience to a wisdom greater than one's own. That is a lesson many stories never quite reach. This one does. And there is Guanyin, again and again, calm and compassionate, appearing as a kind of guiding presence in the larger arc of the tale. Guanyin is not restless, not proud, not troubled by rank. Where the Monkey King surges forward, Guanyin often arrives with quiet clarity. In a story full of magic and motion, such figures of deep stillness matter. They remind the listener that there are kinds of power beyond force. Mercy is one, patience is another, clear seeing is another. In some moments, the Monkey King's loyalty is tested not by battle, but by wounded pride. Tang Sanzang may misunderstand him. Bajie may accuse him unfairly. The group may doubt his judgment. These are not easy things for him. He still has a sharp sense of dignity. He still wants to be recognized, not dismissed. Yet when he leaves in anger, he so often returns in service. That returning is part of his growth. He is learning to place duty above ego, even if not always easily. And perhaps that is one of the reasons so many people love him. He is not good in a simple or effortless way. His better self is won through friction. He earns his growth through repeated correction. He is brilliant, but not serene. He is loyal, but not mild. He is changing, but slowly. That slowness feels honest. If we continue further along the road, we find that the landscapes themselves almost become characters. There are mountains so steep that they seem to rise straight into cloud. There are deserts where the wind carries fine dust like whispered silk. There are rivers that spread wide and flat under white sky. There are old temples with faded paint and patient stone lions at the gate. There are forests where branches weave shadows over narrow paths. There are distant bells, market sounds from unknown towns, and the quiet creak of saddle leather in the morning.
Journey to the West is not only about what happens, it is about where it happens. The road feels long because the world feels large. The Monkey King crosses not only spiritual tests, but actual distance. He is a creature of movement, and the story gives him endless landscapes to cross. This matters because movement itself changes meaning. At the beginning of his myth, movement is freedom. He runs, leaps, and flies because he can. Later, movement becomes rebellion. He storms heaven, rushes into danger, refuses boundaries. But on the pilgrimage, movement becomes service. He travels not for pride, but for a purpose beyond himself. The same motion has changed its heart. That is a lovely mythic transformation. Outer action remains the same. Inner intention changes everything. There are times when the Monkey King must sit still, not because he is trapped, but because waiting is wiser than acting too soon. This is not easy for him. Yet again and again the journey teaches it. A hidden enemy may reveal itself only after patience. A divine helper may arrive only after restraint. A misunderstanding may clear only after tempers cool. In these quieter tests, the Monkey King's development is most visible. Anyone can admire him when he is leaping through clouds. The more interesting question is whether he can remain still beside a worried monk and not let irritation rule him. Little by little, he can. The old stories also like to show that even heavenly and spiritual beings are part of a larger pattern of imperfection, correction, and responsibility. Some monsters were once servants of the gods. Some animals become dangerous after gaining power they cannot handle. Some spirits have wandered away from their proper place. Again and again, the Monkey King discovers that disorder on earth has roots above it. This gives the tale a broad and almost dreamlike sense of connection. Nothing is entirely separate. The cave in the valley may relate to a court in heaven. The local trouble may echo a cosmic imbalance. For a listener growing sleepy, this pattern can feel almost like a woven tapestry. Thread crosses thread, one part touches another. The Monkey King, once a creature outside order, becomes an agent helping to restore order, even if in his own irreverent style. And still, the story never fully takes away his mischievous spark. This is important. He is not made dull. He does not become a quiet monk in robes, moving softly through the world with lowered eyes. He remains himself. He still has the quick answer, the suspicious glance, the appetite for action. The myth does not ask him to erase his nature, only to refine it. That is one of the gentlest truths the story offers. Growth does not always mean becoming someone entirely different. Sometimes it means becoming the best and most balanced version of who you already are. If we think of the Monkey King as a symbol of the mind, this becomes even more meaningful. The mind can be clever, wandering, impatient, proud, playful, distracted, and full of movement. Trying to crush it entirely may not work, but guiding it, training it, and giving it worthy purpose may. In this reading, the Monkey King's long journey is the mind's journey toward discipline and wisdom. His staff is focused energy. His transformations are the mind's endless flexibility. His cloud somersault is imagination itself, crossing space in an instant.
His imprisonment under the mountain is the hard lesson of stillness. His service to the monk is the mind serving the path of awakening. This symbolic reading sits gently under the surface of the adventure. You do not need to think about it all the time, but it is there, like a steady river beneath the road. Let us linger for a while with one especially quiet idea. The Monkey King spends much of his early life trying not to be subject to anyone. He rejects death. He rejects hierarchy. He rejects limits. He wants to answer only to himself. Yet the deeper wisdom of the tale suggests that freedom alone is not enough. Real freedom may require discipline. Real strength may require service. Real greatness may involve bowing to something larger than one's own will. That could sound severe if told harshly, but in this story it is told through centuries, mistakes, jokes, roads, companions, and magical battles. It unfolds slowly, and because it unfolds slowly, it feels less like a command and more like a truth discovered through experience. The Monkey King learns. He is not crushed, he is educated by time. This is perhaps why his tale feels so rich. It allows both delight and depth. Children may love his tricks and power. Adults may see the spiritual arc beneath. Scholars may study the blending of Buddhist, Taoist, and folk traditions. Artists may love the images of clouds, mountains, peaches, dragons, and stone. Storytellers may return again and again because he contains so many things at once. He is a rebel and a disciple. He is comic and profound. He is magical and symbolic. He is wild and slowly becoming wise. And because we are moving in a calm, sleepy way tonight, we do not need to separate those parts too sharply. We can let them rest together. Somewhere on the long road, travelers cross a bridge before dawn. Mist lies on the water below. The wood is damp underfoot. The monk walks carefully. Bajia grumbles. Shawu Jing steadies the load. The Monkey King goes ahead, light and quick, scanning the far bank. The whole world is pale and quiet. For a moment, there is no demon, no argument, no divine message, no magical confrontation. Only a bridge, a river, a cold morning, and 4 figures moving west.
These small, imagined moments may not be the most famous in the story, but they give it breath. They make the myth inhabitable. They allow us to feel the longness of the journey, not only its highlights. In truth, the Monkey King could not have been transformed by a single revelation alone. He needed time on the road. He needed ordinary hours as well as extraordinary ones. He needed repetition. He needed to protect the monk not once, but many times. He needed to be corrected not once, but many times. And perhaps that is how change happens for all beings, mythical or human. Not by one bright moment alone, but by many steps repeated. When the pilgrims finally near their goal, the accumulated weight of all those steps becomes clear. They are no longer what they were at the start. Even Bajie, still imperfect, has been carried by the road into something more seasoned. Shawu Jing has proven steady through every trial. Tang Sanzang has endured more than his gentle nature seemed built to endure. And the Monkey King has become not merely the most powerful among them, but the most transformed. It is fitting that at the end he receives spiritual recognition, but the recognition matters less than the becoming. The title confirms outwardly what the road has already accomplished inwardly. He is no longer simply the monkey who wanted to be equal to heaven. He has become a being who can participate in a greater order without resentment. That is a very different thing. The early Monkey King wanted status. The later Monkey King becomes worthy. There is a quiet distance between those two desires. If we return now to the moment with the Buddha's hand, that great and humbling moment,
It begins to look less like defeat and more like necessary instruction. The Monkey King had to discover that he could not leap beyond everything. He had to discover that some realities are wider than cleverness. He had to be held still before he could walk rightly. The mountain that trapped him was also the mountain that prepared him. This is often how myths work. The punishment is also the training. The obstacle is also the door. And after the mountain came the road. After stillness came service. After pride came purpose. There is something deeply restful in that sequence. It tells us that error need not be the end of a life. Wildness need not be final. Even great mistakes can become part of the path toward wisdom. The Monkey King is not lovable because he was always correct. He is lovable because he was difficult, brilliant, foolish, loyal, vain, brave, and still capable of change. Now, as the story settles into its quieter meaning, we can draw a little closer to the image of him at peace. Not the young monkey splashing in a mountain stream, though that image too is sweet. Not the rebel king raising his staff against celestial armies, though that is grand. Not even the determined protector racing across clouds to rescue his master. Instead, imagine him after the journey, after the scriptures, after all the dust of the road has fallen away. He is seated somewhere high and still. The sky is open. Wind moves lightly. His staff is near but idle. He no longer needs to prove himself. He no longer needs to demand a title. He no longer needs to leap beyond the world. He is simply present within it. For a creature once defined by motion, this presence is the final wonder. And perhaps, in a small way, that is why his story belongs well at bedtime. The restless one becomes calm. The leaping mind becomes still enough to rest in something larger. The one who could never stop learns at last not only how to move, but how to settle. Let the old Chinese mountains return now in the distance of thought. Let the waterfalls shine faintly in moonlight. Let the dragon palace sleep under the sea. Let the heavenly gardens grow quiet. Let the furnace cool. Let the 5 elements mountain stand dark beneath the stars. Let the western road stretch far and peaceful across the sleeping land. All the places of his life remain, but none of them call for struggle now. The cave behind the waterfall is quiet. The underworld ledger lies closed. The peaches hang still on their branches. The clouds drift without haste. The temples keep their lamps low. The road, at last, has been walked. And the Monkey King, born from stone and changed by time, rests in the great pattern of things. If your mind is still busy, let it take comfort from him. Minds leap, thoughts race, feelings protest, pride rises, worry chatters like a small, quick monkey under leaves. This is the nature of mind for so many of us. Restless, clever, not easy to command. But the story says that even such a mind can learn the long art of quiet. Not at once, not perfectly, but gradually, through patience. So there is no need to force stillness tonight, no need to battle your own thoughts. Let them come and go. Let them leap a little if they must. The road is long, the night is soft. Even the Monkey King needed time. Imagine now the sound of a stream on the mountain of flowers and fruit, soft water on stone, cool air under branches, leaves moving very lightly in the dark. Somewhere in that old and distant place, the first stone still remembers moonlight. Somewhere, the waterfall still hides the cave. Somewhere, the story begins again and again, each time with the same gentle image of a mountain waiting.
And far beyond that beginning, after all the years and lessons, the same story comes to rest in stillness. That is where we leave him now. Not in battle, not in rebellion, not beneath punishment, not even on the road, but in quiet. So let your own thoughts grow quiet too. Let the mountain grow dim.
Let the road fade softly. Let the staff rest. Let the clouds drift. Let the old tale become distant and light. And as the Monkey King settles into peace, you can settle too. Rest now. The night is wide, the story is gentle, and sleep can come. Settle in again, and let the room feel softer than before. Let the day move farther away. Let your breathing become easy and quiet, steady and unhurried. There is nothing to solve right now, nothing to carry, nothing to finish, only this calm moment, and this old story, and the slow sound of words moving gently through the dark. Tonight, we continue once more with the Monkey King, not to rush toward anything, but simply to walk a little farther beside him. His story is one of the longest and most beloved in Chinese tradition, and because it is so wide, it can be entered many times. Each time the path bends a little differently. Each time another quiet corner appears. So tonight, we will linger in those corners. We will stay with the roads, the habits, the lessons, the companions, and the curious mixture of wildness and wisdom that makes the Monkey King feel so alive, even in a story meant to lead us towards sleep. One of the most comforting things about a long myth is that it does not mind repetition. It does not rush to be new every moment. It knows that roads repeat, dawn repeats, hunger repeats, mistakes repeat, lessons repeat too. The Monkey King's journey is made of many events, yes, but also of many patterns. He warns the monk doubts him, trouble comes, the Monkey King acts, the group is saved, then they walk on. Again and again, this happens in different forms, under different skies, in different lands. The rhythm itself becomes part of the experience. The listener begins to feel the shape of the road. And roads have their own kind of quiet wisdom. A road teaches through length. It does not argue, it simply continues. One footstep follows another. One day follows another. A road does not care if the traveler is proud or humble, clever or foolish. It asks only that the traveler keep walking. The Monkey King, who once preferred leaps to steps, eventually becomes a creature of the road as much as a creature of the clouds. He still leaps when needed, he still flies ahead, but the pilgrimage teaches him the value of continuing, not merely arriving. This is a deep change for him. In his earlier life, he often wanted the result without the slow process. He wanted immortality, and he went searching. He wanted recognition, and he demanded it. He wanted a weapon, and he took one. He wanted freedom from death, and he erased his name from the register. He wanted honor from heaven, and when it did not come in the form he preferred, he responded with revolt. His life was full of sudden acts, quick victories, and dramatic refusals. But the pilgrimage is different. The pilgrimage cannot be stolen in a single gesture. It cannot be conquered in one burst of talent. It must be lived day after day. That patient length changes the Monkey King as much as any teacher ever did. Let us imagine one long stretch of the Western Road. It is late afternoon. The path bends through low hills covered with dry grass and scattered trees. The sky is pale, almost white near the horizon. No danger is visible, and yet the Monkey King remains watchful. Tang Zhang Zhang is tired but determined. Ba Ji is complaining in a low voice about how far it is to the next meal. Sha Wu Jing walks with quiet steadiness as always. Their horse moves gently. Dust rises and falls. It is an ordinary part of the journey, and precisely because it is ordinary, it matters. Myths are often remembered for their brightest moments. The golden staff, the golden peaches, the leap from the Buddha's hand, the mountain prison, the great battles. But a life is not made only of highlights, even a mythical life. It is also made of stretches of walking, waiting, watching, enduring, and beginning again each morning. Journey to the West understands this, and because it understands this, the Monkey King becomes more than a dazzling trickster. He becomes a companion on a long human road. His arguments with Tang Sang Zhang continue through much of the journey, and these arguments are worth lingering over because they are so central to his development. Tang Sang Zhang is often gentle to the point of danger. He sees suffering and wishes to ease it. He sees an old woman on the roadside and thinks of kindness. He sees a poor family and thinks of mercy. He sees a stranger offering help and wishes to trust them. This makes him noble, but also exposed. The Monkey King, by contrast, has seen too much of illusion to trust so easily.
He knows how spirits disguise themselves. He knows how hunger can hide behind courtesy. He knows how beauty can be used as a net. Neither of them is entirely wrong. This is one reason their relationship has such lasting depth. It is not a simple pattern of wise teacher and obedient disciple. In some ways, Tang Sanzang is spiritually above the Monkey King. In other ways, the Monkey King is vastly more competent in the world. Tang Sanzang teaches the goal. The Monkey King often secures the means of reaching it. Tang Sanzang represents the purity of aspiration. The Monkey King represents the sharpness needed to survive the road. Without the monk, the journey loses meaning. Without the Monkey King, it may not survive at all. So they quarrel, and still they continue together. There is something restful in that too. Not the quarrels themselves, but the continuing. They do not become perfect companions overnight. They do not suddenly understand each other completely. They go on in partial understanding, and slowly, over time, the bond grows stronger. That is often how deep relationships work. Trust is formed not by instant harmony, but by repeated return. And the Monkey King keeps returning. There are episodes when he is sent away. The monk, upset by what he believes to be harshness or wrongdoing, dismisses him. The Monkey King leaves in anger or sorrow. Yet when real danger rises and the group cannot manage alone, he is called back. He comes, he rescues, he complains, yes, but he comes. Each return softens something inside him. Each return says in its own quiet way that duty matters more than pride. This does not mean pride vanishes. The Monkey King remains proud almost to the end, but pride becomes less central. It stops ruling every decision. That is growth, and growth in myth is often best shown not by the disappearance of flaws, but by the lessening of their power. Bajie's role becomes even more interesting when seen in this calm, reflective way. On the surface, he is often comic. He wants more food, more comfort, less effort. He complains about the difficulty of the road. He may flatter, exaggerate, or try to avoid danger. Yet Bajie does not leave the pilgrimage either. For all his weakness, he keeps going. His persistence is imperfect but real. He is the part of the human spirit that does not rise nobly toward wisdom, but shuffles, grumbles, and still arrives eventually. There is kindness in the story's willingness to include such a figure. Sacred journeys are not made only by the pure and disciplined, they are also made by the hungry, the tired, and the not yet ready. Sha Wu Jing, meanwhile, continues as the steady quiet around the louder personalities. He is not often at the center of the most dramatic episodes, but he gives balance to the group. He is patient where Bajie is impulsive. He is calm where the Monkey King is sharp. He does not seek attention, he simply continues. In a bedtime telling, such a figure feels especially soothing. He is like the steady ground beneath a shifting sky. The more we stay with the Monkey King, the more we notice that he is not only changing through great acts, but also through repeated contact with these companions. Companionship shapes him. Bajie frustrates him. Tang Sanzang corrects him. Sha Wu Zheng steadies the group around him. The journey is not a solo trial, it is a collective one. This matters because the Monkey King's earliest life was marked by self-assertion. He crowned himself. He named himself. He measured himself against heaven. On the pilgrimage, he must live within a company. He must consider others. He must restrain himself for the sake of a shared goal. This is not easy for a being of such force. But that is exactly why it transforms him. There are many monsters on the road,
and in the soft light of night we can think of them less as objects of fear and more as symbols of confusion, greed, vanity, and desire. One demon seeks the monk for spiritual gain, another clings to power in a mountain cave, another uses illusion to lure travelers, another relies on a magical object that is not truly theirs. Again and again, the Monkey King faces beings who are trapped by craving or false identity. In this sense, they are distorted reflections of parts of himself. He once craved power, he once insisted on identity and rank, he once reached for sacred things without inner readiness. Now he confronts those tendencies outside himself. This is one of the subtle beauties of long myths. The hero often meets external versions of inner problems. Defeating them becomes part of self-knowledge. Yet it is not always defeat by force alone. Sometimes the Monkey King must learn the history behind a creature. Sometimes he must understand the source of its power. Sometimes he must travel far to fetch the one being capable of restoring order. Sometimes the creature is not wholly evil, but misdirected, escaped, corrupted, or misplaced. The story's world is morally lively, but not always simple. This complexity makes it feel older and wiser than a plain tale of good striking down evil. And through it all, the Monkey King's own energy becomes more skillful. He is still quick, but less reckless, still bold, but more purposeful, still magical, but less vain about it. Let us pause for a moment beside one of the story's most enduring images, the Monkey King plucking hairs from his body and turning them into copies, helpers, or useful shapes. There is something endlessly imaginative about this detail. He carries within himself a whole reserve of possible actions. A single gesture becomes many results. It is a perfect image for a mind that can invent endlessly. But it also hints at something deeper. The Monkey King, once so singular in his self-regard, becomes a being who can multiply his effort in service of others. His powers spread outward. They become tools, not just ornaments.
The same can be said of his staff. Early in the story, the staff is part of his grandeur. It proves his strength. It marks him as exceptional. Later, it remains powerful, but it is also practical. It clears the road. It defends the monk. It tests uncertain ground. It becomes part of his work, not just his legend. A mythic object grows gentler when its owner grows wiser. The old Chinese world of the story is also full of bureaucracy, which may seem unusual in a myth. Heaven has officials. The underworld has records. Titles matter. Messengers are sent. Reports are made. The Monkey King's rebellion against these structures gives the early story much of its spark. He is wildlife confronting celestial administration. Yet over time, he learns not merely to reject order, but to move within a higher and more meaningful kind of order. He does not surrender to empty rank. Instead, he comes to serve a sacred mission. This distinction is important. The story does not say that all authority is good. It suggests that authority without wisdom is hollow, while disciplined service, rooted in truth, has value. That is a sophisticated idea for a tale about a monkey with a magic staff, and yet the story wears its ideas lightly. It lets them travel beneath jokes, quarrels, monsters, mountains, and clouds. The more time we spend with the Monkey King, the more he begins to feel like a living bundle of contradictions. He is proud and devoted, fierce and protective, childish and profound, rebellious and disciplined, quick to anger and quick to rescue. These contradictions are not flaws in the storytelling. They are part of what makes him so enduring. Few memorable figures are simple. The Monkey King remains alive in the imagination because he contains so many movements of the spirit at once. At night, these contradictions can soften into something almost tender. He is difficult, yes, but sincerely so. He does not deceive himself into pretending calm when he is angry. He does not hide his irritation behind polite silence. He is transparent in his liveliness. That directness makes even his flaws feel vivid and honest. And perhaps that is why his gradual learning feels earned. Because he does not start from stillness, he starts from motion. Any peace he reaches later has weight behind it.
The pilgrimage also contains many crossings of water, and water is always a calming image. Rivers in old stories often mark change. To cross a river is to move from one condition into another. The travelers stand on banks, seek ferries, face currents, and pass over bridges. Water separates and joins. It reflects sky. It resists haste. The Monkey King, who once crossed the sea on a simple raft in search of immortality, now crosses many waters in search of something larger than his own escape from death. This is a quiet and beautiful echo between the early parts and later parts of his life. In the beginning, he crossed water for himself. Later, he crosses water for the mission. The outer motion is similar. The heart behind it is changed. There are nights on the road when the moon must have been bright. We can imagine the group resting near a ruined temple or a patch of trees, the horse breathing softly, the monk asleep after prayer, Bajie snoring perhaps, heavy and content if he has eaten, Xiao Jing keeping a simple watch in his quiet way, and the Monkey King awake a little longer, listening. What does he hear in such moments? Perhaps wind through dry grass, perhaps an owl somewhere far off, perhaps the faint sound of water over stone. Perhaps only the silence that comes after long walking. In those moments, he is no longer the monkey in the heavenly banquet grabbing peaches in outrage. He is a guardian in the night. His power is still there, but wrapped in purpose. His wakefulness belongs to others now. He keeps watch so the monk may sleep. That is a profound shift. The story never says this in overly soft terms, but bedtime allows us to feel it. There is love in watchfulness. There is devotion in staying awake for another's safety. The Monkey King, for all his noise and pride, becomes capable of that devotion. As the road continues, the scriptures in the West begin to feel less like distant objects and more like a quiet center drawing the travelers onward. None of them fully know, at the beginning, what the journey will make of them. They only know the direction, west. Step by step, difficulty by difficulty, sunrise by sunrise, they move toward that unseen destination. This too resembles inner life. Often we begin with a direction, not a clear understanding. The road teaches the meaning along the way. The Monkey King, perhaps, begins the pilgrimage partly because it is his chance at release, redemption, and meaningful action after the mountain. But along the road, the journey becomes more than that. He becomes invested in the mission itself. He begins to care not only about what happens to him, but whether the scriptures reach the world that needs them. That broadening of care is a mark of true growth. Many retellings simplify the Monkey King into only a playful hero or rebellious fighter, but the deeper story gives him moral expansion. He grows beyond self-concern. He learns the dignity of service. And because he never stops being vivid, this dignity feels active, not dull. He serves like the Monkey King serves, with leaps, grumbling, wit, mischief, and fierce effort. But he serves. One may even say that the pilgrimage gives him something he never found in heaven. Heaven offered status without understanding. The monk offers trust that must be earned and re-earned. Heaven wanted him contained. The pilgrimage needs him transformed. There is a difference between being managed and being called into purpose. The Monkey King responds deeply to the second.
This is why the road succeeds where celestial punishment alone could not. The 500 years under the mountain broke his momentum and humbled his pride, but the road gave that humbled power somewhere to go. Without the pilgrimage, he might have remained only subdued. With it, he becomes useful, loyal, and in time, spiritually accomplished. Restraint alone is not enough. Direction matters too. That is a gentle lesson worth keeping. As the end of the journey draws nearer, the companions have all become more than they were. Hardship has a shaping effect. So does repeated rescue. So does long travel in company. They know each other's habits by now. They know how Bajie complains when tired, how Tong Sanxiang speaks when worried, how Sha Wujing quietly takes on what others forget, how the Monkey King narrows his eyes when something is wrong. Familiarity has wrapped itself around them. They are no longer simply assigned companions. They are a shared life on the road.
The Monkey King, born in a stone crack under heaven and earth, now belongs not only to mountain and cloud, but to relationship. That, too, is part of his maturation. He does not lose independence entirely. He would not be himself if he did, but he gains belonging. This is one of the softest transformations of all, because it happens almost without ceremony. When at last the scriptures are obtained and the journey's purpose is fulfilled, the recognition each traveler receives feels less like reward and more like revelation. It shows outwardly what the road has been making inwardly all along. The Monkey King's final spiritual elevation is not an unexpected prize, it is the natural flowering of everything he has slowly become. He who once called himself equal to heaven no longer needs to say it. His life has taken another shape. He does not seize a title now, he grows into one. There is a peace in that which the younger Monkey King could never have understood, and perhaps there is peace in hearing it too. So many beings in this world strain to be seen, praised, ranked, or proven. The early Monkey King did all of that with enormous energy, but the later Monkey King shows another way. Walk the road, do the work, protect what matters, endure correction, return after anger. Learn slowly, let worth ripen by action. That is a much calmer kind of greatness. As we begin to settle this part of the tale, let us drift once more through the places of his life, one by one, very softly. The stone on the mountain of flowers and fruit washed in moonlight for ages. The joyful monkeys beneath trees heavy with fruit. The waterfall opening like a silver curtain. The hidden cave cool and safe behind rushing water. The raft crossing the sea, small against wide waves. The quiet master in a far-off place, teaching hidden arts. The dragon palace below the water, full of pearls and ancient treasure. The golden staff, heavy as a pillar and light as a needle. The heavenly stables, the banquet halls, the peaches, the furnace, the Buddha's hand, the mountain of waiting, the monk on the road, the tightening band, the dusty path westward, the strange caves of demons, the temple courtyards at dusk, the rivers crossed, the prayers spoken, the arguments repeated, the rescues, the long miles, the scriptures, the stillness at the end. It is a great arc, and yet it holds together. A stone becomes a monkey becomes a rebel becomes a disciple becomes a protector becomes something enlightened. The story moves slowly enough to allow all of that. And because it moves slowly, we may let it move slowly out of our thoughts now as well. Imagine the western sky fading after sunset. The road is no longer visible in detail, only as a soft line through the land. The travelers have passed beyond sight. The dust they raised has settled. The sounds of quarrel and laughter are gone. Only the memory of their going remains, quiet and distant. The Monkey King no longer needs to leap tonight. No one needs rescuing now. No celestial court is calling. No demon is hiding on the next hill.
No headband is tightening. No staff is striking stone. Everything is still. The mountain is still. The rivers are still. The clouds are still. And the old restless spirit who once moved like wind through every realm has, at last, found a peace large enough to hold him. Let that feeling remain with you for a moment. Not forced stillness, not empty silence, but a gentle settling, a calm after long movement, a rest after long effort. If your thoughts are still wandering, that is all right. Let them wander softly. Let them be like the Monkey King before wisdom fully ripened, lively but not frightening. And then let them grow tired of wandering. Let them sit beside the road. Let them look at the sky. Let them rest their staff. Let them listen to the stream. Somewhere far away, the mountain of flowers and fruit is under night again. The waterfall continues its endless falling. The cave behind it is cool and dark. The old stone remembers sun and moon, and the story, which began with a crack in silence, has returned gently to silence once more. Rest now. Let the road fade. Let the mountains fade.
Let the clouds fade. Let the Monkey King fade into stillness. And sleep. Breathe out slowly, and let this next part arrive as softly as falling dust on an old road. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your jaw rest. Let the mind drift if it wants to drift. We do not need to hold the whole story tightly. We only need to walk beside it for a little while longer. The Monkey King has many roads inside his one great road, and tonight we follow another of them, quietly, patiently, under a calm and distant sky. There is something very soothing about a character who begins in noise and slowly learns the shape of quiet. The Monkey King is one of those rare figures in myth who contains both extreme movement and eventual calm. He begins in brightness, boldness, and great self-confidence. He does not enter the world gently. He bursts into it from stone, already touched by heaven and earth, already unusual, already full of life. From the beginning, he is a creature who looks at limits and wonders whether they are real. He looks at walls and thinks of crossing them. He looks at rules and thinks of testing them. He looks at the world and wants not merely to live in it, but to master it. And yet, for all that energy, his story does not end in conquest. It ends in harmony. That is a very different kind of ending. And because it is different, it feels worth staying with a little longer. When people first hear of the Monkey King, they often remember his brightest actions. They remember the great golden staff that could change size. They remember the somersault cloud that carried him immense distances. They remember the peaches of immortality, the Dragon King's palace beneath the sea, the furnace of Laozi, and the bold disorder he created in heaven itself. These parts are vivid, and they stay in the imagination. But when the night is quiet and the goal is rest, another side of the story becomes more meaningful. Not the side of display, but the side of repetition. Not the side of triumph, but the side of learning. Learning is slower than triumph. This is one of the reasons the pilgrimage matters so much. It takes a being of almost endless ability and places him in a form of life where ability alone is not enough. He cannot simply win once and be done. He cannot seize the scriptures the way he seized peaches. He cannot frighten the road into shortening. He cannot demand enlightenment the way he once demanded rank. The road west teaches him that some things unfold only through duration, through company, through correction, through endurance. There is an old gentleness in that kind of lesson. It does not flatter the listener with quick results. It says instead that some worthy things take time. That is not a dramatic message, but it is a peaceful one. Let us imagine a morning deep within the pilgrimage. The air is cool. Mist lies low over the ground. The monk wakes first, perhaps with prayer in his thoughts. Sha Wu Jing rises and begins to prepare what needs preparing. Baji wakes more slowly, not eager for the road unless breakfast is certain. The horse shifts softly, and the Monkey King has likely been awake already, either keeping watch through part of the night or wandering the nearby ground to see what may be hidden there. The day begins without fanfare. This is important. In long stories, beginning again is one of the central acts. Not every day contains a grand event. Some days only begin. But beginning is itself a kind of courage. The Monkey King, who once loved only the exceptional moment, becomes a being capable of ordinary continuation. He walks into another day of service, another day of suspicion, perhaps. Another day of dust and hunger and surprise. Another day of not being the center of the universe.
That last part matters especially. In the early part of his myth, he wants the universe to recognize him. He wants heaven to feel his presence. He wants his name to carry weight. On the pilgrimage, he still stands out, certainly. He could hardly vanish into the background. Yet the journey is not about proving him. It is about safeguarding the monk and helping carry sacred knowledge home. The center has shifted away from his ego. Even if his ego does not always realize it quickly, the structure of the story has changed around him. This change is one of the deepest reasons the tale endures.
It offers a fantasy of power, yes, but it also offers a fantasy of transformation. Not the transformation of becoming stronger, because the Monkey King is already very strong. Rather, the transformation of becoming rightly directed. Power finds purpose. Intelligence finds discipline. Motion finds meaning. That is a beautiful pattern. In many parts of the journey, illusion plays a central role. Houses appear where no true house stands. Friendly strangers are not what they seem. A landscape may conceal danger in lovely form. This repeated use of disguise and deception does more than create adventure. It trains the listener, and the characters too, to ask what is real beneath appearance. Tong Sanzang, compassionate and sincere, often sees the surface first. He responds to need, to courtesy, to visible suffering. The Monkey King sees beneath more quickly. He notices what does not fit. He hears a false note. He senses the wrongness hidden under politeness. If this were a simpler story, one of them would be entirely right and the other entirely wrong. But Journey to the West is more patient than that. Tong Sanzang's compassion is real and noble, even if it makes him vulnerable. The Monkey King's suspicion is often necessary, even if it can make him harsh. Their tension creates a living moral space between mercy and discernment. That space is not comfortable, but it is rich. And because the story returns to it again and again, it begins to feel like one of the pilgrimage's deepest lessons. Wisdom requires both a soft heart and clear sight. Too much softness may be deceived. Too much sharpness may become cruel. The Monkey King and the monk, traveling together, enact this difficult balance over many long miles. There are moments when the Monkey King acts decisively to stop a threat, and Tong Sanzang condemns him because he sees only the outward form of the act. The Monkey King feels wronged. He has protected the group, yet he is blamed. These episodes can sound almost frustrating when retold quickly. But in a slow telling, they reveal something tender and true about relationships. Sometimes those who protect us do so in ways we do not immediately understand. Sometimes kindness and necessity come into conflict. Sometimes people with different virtues wound each other without meaning to. Still, they go on together. This repeated reconciliation is part of what makes the story restful rather than merely exciting. It never remains at the peak of conflict for too long. The road absorbs the quarrel. Another day arrives. Another danger comes. Another act of rescue or forgiveness takes place. The emotional weather changes, but the journey remains. There is comfort in a story that can hold disagreement without breaking. Baji's presence adds another layer of comfort, though of a very different sort. He is appetites made visible: hunger, laziness, vanity, avoidance, complaint. He is deeply human in all the least lofty ways, and still he is included in the sacred mission. This is one of the kindest things about Journey to the West. It does not suggest that only the already disciplined may walk toward wisdom. It allows even the distracted and indulgent to join the road, provided they keep moving somehow. For a sleepy listener, this can feel almost like mercy. You do not have to be perfect to remain part of the journey. You do not have to be noble in every hour. You may complain and still continue. You may be weak and still be carried forward by the shared road. Sha Wu Jing remains the quiet proof of steadiness. Not every transformation must be dramatic. Not every virtue makes noise. His patience, his labor, his willingness to carry and endure all create a background rhythm of reliability. In a tale filled with magical feats, there is something lovely about the companion whose greatness is simply not giving up. When we look at the four travelers together, they resemble not only a small company, but a whole inner life. Tong Sanzang is the part that longs upward toward truth and holiness. Baji is the part drawn downward toward comfort and appetite. Sha Wu Jing is the part that bears and continues. And the Monkey King is the quick mind, brilliant, proud, restless, inventive, impossible to ignore. If we read the story this way, then the pilgrimage becomes an inward journey as much as an outward one. All the parts of a person, not merely the best part, must somehow travel together. This symbolic reading is gentle and very useful at night. It allows the story to become almost intimate. The Monkey King is no longer only a hero from far away. He becomes something recognizable, a lively mind that jumps from thought to thought, a mind that resists limits, a mind that wants mastery, that dislikes correction, that grows bored quickly, that suspects appearances, that races ahead of the body. Many listeners know such a mind very well. And perhaps that is why the story works so well for sleep. It tells us, without harshness, that a restless mind can still be part of a meaningful path. It does not have to be perfect to remain part of the journey. You do not have to be noble in every hour. You may complain and still continue. You may be weak and still be carried forward by the shared road.
The Monkey King's magical powers are part of his appeal, of course. They give the story wonder and flexibility. He can transform. He can fly. He can multiply through plucked hairs. He can wield his staff with tremendous force. Yet, what becomes interesting later is not simply that he has these powers, but how he uses them. Early on, the powers express independence and defiance. Later, they become acts of protection. The same gift changes its moral shape when placed in service. This is one of the calmest truths in the story. Gifts are not automatically wise. They must be directed. Cleverness may deceive or discern. Strength may oppress or protect. Freedom may become chaos or compassion. The Monkey King's life demonstrates this not through abstract teaching, but through one long mythic biography. Again and again he must ask for help. This is another soft correction to his earlier pride. He once believed he could match heaven itself. Later, when facing certain monsters or enchanted obstacles, he finds that even he cannot solve everything alone. He goes to Guanyin, or to celestial figures, or to beings connected to the hidden origin of the problem. These journeys upward or outward for aid are profoundly important. They show that maturity is not only doing great things oneself, it is also knowing where one's limits lie and accepting assistance without losing dignity. The younger Monkey King would not have liked this lesson. The later Monkey King learns to live it. Guanyin, in particular, brings a hush into the story whenever she appears. She is one of those figures who seems to stand in a different emotional climate from the Monkey King. He surges. She settles. He reacts. She understands. He strains forward. She arrives with calm clarity. Her presence reminds both the characters and the listeners that there are powers deeper than force. Compassion itself can shape events. Mercy can guide what strength alone cannot finish. For a bedtime retelling, this contrast is especially soothing. The Monkey King's motion is always held within a larger field of stillness, represented by beings like Guanyin and ultimately by the Buddha. The story does not glorify endless action for its own sake. It keeps returning to larger forms of peace. Even the great humiliations of the Monkey King's life begin to look gentler when viewed from afar. Being trapped under the mountain for 500 years is, on the surface, a severe punishment. Yet in the full arc of the tale, it also becomes a long preparation. Without it, his pride might never have softened enough for the pilgrimage to work. Stillness is forced upon the one who cannot stop. Time is given to the one who always wants immediacy. The mountain becomes not only a prison, but a teacher. This is a difficult idea, but a restful one too. It suggests that waiting can have purpose, even when it feels harsh. Silence can shape us. Stillness can prepare us. The Monkey King's greatest road begins only after he has been unable to move for a very long time. When he emerges from beneath the mountain, he is not yet peaceful, far from it.
But he is more ready than before to enter a path that is not wholly of his own choosing. That readiness is everything. Many old stories treasure this pattern of wild power being redirected rather than destroyed. The hero is not flattened into obedience. The hero is taught alignment. The Monkey King remains wonderfully himself even near the end. He is never reduced to blandness. He still speaks sharply. He still leaps into action. He still mistrusts appearances. He still carries the quick, alert brightness that has always defined him. What changes is not his essence, but his orientation. He turns outward in service instead of upward in pride. That distinction is subtle, and perhaps that is why it feels so true. It is also worth remembering that Journey to the West is a story shaped by several traditions at once. Buddhist ideas about pilgrimage, discipline, compassion, and enlightenment are deeply woven into it. Taoist ideas about immortality, cosmic order, and spiritual cultivation appear too. Folk religion, local storytelling, humor, satire, and wonder all move through it. The Monkey King himself seems to dance across these layers. He studies Taoist arts, rebels against celestial hierarchy, then becomes central to a Buddhist pilgrimage. He is difficult to contain even at the level of tradition. Perhaps that is fitting. A creature born from stone and sky should not belong too neatly to one box. For the sleepy listener, this blended world creates a gentle richness. Heaven is not abstract. It has gates, offices, messengers, gardens, and officials. The underworld has records and procedures. Rivers have dragons. Mountains hide spirits. Monasteries hold scriptures. The cosmos of the story is organized, yet lively. It feels inhabited at every level. The Monkey King moves through this layered universe like a bright thread passing through a tapestry. And then, eventually, the bright thread learns where it belongs. Let us slow down further and picture another evening on the road. The last light is leaving the sky. A few faint colors remain over the far hills. The travelers have found shelter in a small abandoned shrine, or perhaps beneath trees near a stream. The monk sits quietly with his prayers. Bajie wonders if there is more food. Sha Wu Jing arranges bedding with practical care. The horse lowers its head. The Monkey King steps outside the little circle of rest and looks into the darkening distance. He is listening, always listening. But perhaps now, after so many trials, his listening has changed. It is no longer only the search for threat. It is also an attention to the world itself. The wind in the grass, the coolness of evening, the hush before full night, the road behind them and the road ahead, the little companionship gathered around a monk with scriptures yet to claim. In such moments, the Monkey King is close to peace, even if he would not say so. Peace for him looks like vigilance without panic. It looks like strength with purpose. It looks like belonging to a task that matters. It looks like not needing applause. How very far that is from the monkey who once announced himself as great sage equal to heaven. And yet the story never mocks that earlier self too harshly. It allows even his arrogance to feel youthful, almost necessary to the shape of his becoming. The early boasting is excessive but full of life. Without that force, there would be nothing grand enough to transform. The road needs something powerful to work upon. The Monkey King provides it abundantly. Perhaps that is another comfort hidden in the myth. Our excesses, though troublesome, may contain the raw material of our future virtues. Energy may become devotion. Pride may become dignity. Suspicion may become discernment. Restlessness may become alert service. The very qualities that once caused disorder may, with time and guidance, become useful and even beautiful. The Monkey King is a master example of this. Near the end of the pilgrimage, when recognition finally comes, it is not presented as simple flattery. The titles the travelers receive reveal what they have become through the long road. The Monkey King's final spiritual honor matters because it is no longer something he snatches. It is something the journey has slowly ripened him toward. In the beginning, he wanted a title without transformation. In the end, transformation has come first. The title follows naturally. This reversal is one of the story's deepest satisfactions. The loud desire for status fades, the quiet reality of worth appears. It is a very calm ending to a very lively life. And when we think of the Monkey King afterward, perhaps the most peaceful image is not of battle or trickery, but of settled presence. His staff nearby, but at rest. His body still, his mind no longer thrashing against the order of things. Not diminished, not bored, not defeated. Simply aligned. That word matters. Aligned. A river aligned with its banks flows beautifully. Wind aligned with open space moves freely. A mind aligned with purpose becomes less tormented. The Monkey King's story is, among many other things, the story of alignment. Stone, sky, monkey, magic, rebellion, waiting, service, pilgrimage, awakening. All of it bends gradually toward a final harmony. As we near the close of this next stretch, let the many images of his life pass slowly before the mind, one after another, with no need to hold them tightly. A silent stone on a mountain long before dawn. A crack of light. A monkey blinking into the world. Branches, fruit, bright water, laughter among companions. A hidden cave behind a waterfall. A journey across the sea. A wise master in a distant place. Secret arts learned carefully. A palace under deep water. A staff pulled from its resting place. A name spoken proudly. A throne claimed. A sky challenged. A furnace endured. A mountain waiting. A monk arriving. A road beginning. Dust underfoot. Mist over rivers. Demons in disguise. Prayers at dusk. Arguments and returns. Rescues and warnings. Long miles westward. Scriptures at last. Stillness beyond victory. All of it belongs to one life. All of it belongs to one vast, strange, playful, meaningful tale. And now, as the tale softens again into night, there is nothing left to prove. No gates of heaven need shaking. No peaches need stealing. No dragon kings need startling. No armies need outwitting. The road has done its work. The bright, leaping creature born from stone has crossed the distance from defiance to wisdom. So let the road grow dim now. Let the mountains stand quietly under moonlight. Let the river carry its reflection of stars. Let the old temple lamps burn low. Let the horse sleep. Let Bajie dream of warm food and easy rest. Let Sha Wu Jing sit in patient silence. Let Tong San Zong breathe softly beside his precious burden. And let the Monkey King, vigilant for so long, feel at last that he may rest too. If your thoughts still move quickly, let them move like distant monkeys in far trees, not near enough to trouble you. If they leap from branch to branch, let them do so more slowly now. The night is long. The story is kind. There is nowhere to hurry. The waterfall keeps falling. The clouds keep drifting. The road keeps stretching into silence. And somewhere in that silence, even the Monkey King grows still. Rest now. Let the old myth fade softly. Let the staff become light in the hand, and then no hand at all. Let the road disappear into dark grass. Let the mountain hold the last echo of the tale. And sleep.